Good morning, guys. A little late SmartHER News coffee talk, and do you hear that? Oh my gosh, I spilled an entire thing of coffee. This is so par for the course, you guys. One of the things that you learn as an entrepreneur is that you have to adjust your expectations. And this morning was one of those times where I just had to do it, and this is also a reminder of that. And it's really hard when you're a perfectionist, but you just got to roll with it and you got to keep going. And so we were doing coffee talk this morning at our normal time, which is early, where we can all have coffee. My kids are usually around playing, and we were probably like 2 minutes in when my 2-year-old fell off the couch. Luckily, the couch is very close to the floor and there's a rug, but I just had to stop. I was like, time out. We have to stop. We'll have to do this over again. So, and it's funny because this is normally with coffee talks, I sort of just do it off the top of my head like I'm doing right now. But I had notes, like I was ready to go for you this morning. Like I was ready. Liberty stole my notes and used them as a coloring book, and I still don't know where they are. I'll probably find them like around Thanksgiving. But happy Valentine's Day. And it's actually a great day to take a look at the news today because there are a lot of love themes in the news. We have compromise, we have growth, we have betrayal, we have a breakup. And we also have just a reminder of the power of love. So I'm just going to go through a few of these. Usually I like to pick 2 or 3 stories a day, but I'm just going to kind of give you an overview of some of these news items that I think kind of fall into this category. The big news of the day when it comes to compromise is it looks like the House and the Senate are going to approve this new funding bill that will fund the government fully just until September. So just remember that. It's not a huge amount of time, but it gets us to September. And of course, the big debate in this bill was border wall funding, border barrier, border fence, whatever you'd like to call it. So what it looks like right now is there's about $1.4 billion for new border wall funding. That's far below what the president requested, which was closer to $6 billion. The president has indicated he will sign this bill, which extends the compromise that we're talking about, that Democrats and Republicans have come together. But he sort of left himself an opening. He likes to do that, adds a little drama. You know President Trump. he likes a little bit of the drama. He thrives on it. So he didn't say for sure, but it's likely that he will sign this legislation. He's also indicated that he will find additional funding, where we don't know, to continue to pursue more of a complete border wall. The $1.4 billion would probably get us around 55 miles of new wall. But remember, earlier this week we talked about there's about 1,300 miles that don't have a wall. Some of those miles you probably wouldn't build a wall in it just because of the terrain, but it just gives you some perspective. One thing I want to caution you about, there's a lot of folks in the media today, tomorrow, probably this weekend, that are kind of going to try to referee this and call it a win or a loss for the president. A lot of folks are calling this a loss for the president, saying that he's a weakened president because here he took this stand. But I just want to remind everybody where we started. Where we started was with the president asking for money and the Democrats saying they're not even going to give him a penny for the wall. So the president absolutely did not get what he wants. But the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi also didn't get what she wanted, which was zero funding for the wall. So in that, they're kind of the same. It's kind of an interesting way to look at it. Like, they did make concessions. The president had also put other things on the table that the Democrats didn't really want to go along with, and we don't have broad immigration reform. But before we decide which politician is the loser here, I just think it's important to take a deep breath. Let's see how this plays out. Let's see what happens next. And remember, the news cycle moves quickly. So it takes one big story, to sort of affect public opinion. I don't know if you remember the story of Kate Steinle in San Francisco. She was a young woman walking with her family, and an illegal immigrant who had been deported many times fired a gun. He says it wasn't directly at her. Either way, she was killed. And it became a huge national story. It actually produced legislation, and it just takes one event to change the way the public feels about something or change someone's political fate. So I like to leave room for that. So that's just something I think you should know about. So there's the compromise. Let's quickly go through the breakups. This is a sad story. This is a sad one. It's a breakup. NASA officially broke up with its spacecraft, a rover called Opportunity. Little rover Opportunity went into space in 2004 thinking that it was a 3-month mission. It actually turned into a 15-year mission where it explored the red planet and learned all sorts of crazy stuff, including the presence of water and amazing things about Mars. But in June, NASA lost contact with it. And so yesterday, NASA officially said goodbye. So that's a little sad, but there are other rovers you should know on Mars. It's just sort of sad that this one, it's just over. It's just over sometimes, and this one's pretty over. So there's that. Speaking of growth, I want you to know that Google is expanding into, well, I think eventually it's going to be 24 different states. Last year, Google created 10,000 jobs around the country, and they announced this yesterday, the CEO did. And so they're putting, whether it's Nevada or, all sorts of areas outside of Silicon Valley. They said they created 10,000 jobs last year. They're going to create about that much more, and plus the construction jobs. And these are like data centers. So they're going to have to employ people. They're going to have people build them. So that's kind of an interesting thing. Speaking of betrayal, some big charges were filed yesterday. The U.S. government filed them against one of our own, a former Air Force counterintelligence officer who worked for the military for more than a decade, a girl that was born and raised in Texas, who somewhere along the line decided that she was going to defect, the U.S. government says, to Iran, share state secrets, including all sorts of crazy things, including where some of our personnel is overseas, code names. It sounds really bad. Major betrayal there. Just something to have you on your radar. And another big story, I tend to kind of take a step back when it comes to stories about sexual harassment, because a lot of the times they're uncorroborated, and I think out of respect for all the sources, some of them are unnamed sources, so you got to be really careful. I just think you have to just proceed with caution. But I did include something on the website today, a quote from Mandy Moore. The New York Times did a huge story about Ryan Adams yesterday, and singer-songwriter, people love Ryan Adams. He was married to Mandy Moore. And the newspaper documents with unnamed sources, but also well-placed sources like Mandy Moore, who is married to Ryan Adams, a pattern of abuse, and also a pattern of abuse, psychological abuse when it comes to women, their musical careers, and even speaking and engaging with underaged women, like teenagers. So I just wanted to flag that for you, because I don't know legally where it goes, but it was enough for me to stop and read it. And again, Ryan Adams denies all of these allegations, says it's totally uncorroborated by him, so you should know that. But it's an interesting profile, so I just wanted you to know it as well. Okay, final two things. Narcissism comes up with love. Self-love also comes up with love. I'm not sure if this is narcissism or self-love, but it has to do with the workout trend. Have you seen this new mirror that you can buy for your house and you can work out in front of? And an instructor can talk to you. You could be looking at yourself like, hey. It's called the Mirror, and it costs about $1,500, a $39 a month subscription for classes and things like that. But apparently it's the next big thing in the workout trend. Now, I must admit to you that I own a Peloton. And if you want to have a conversation about the Peloton, I will, because I'm all about on-demand fitness, and I love my Peloton. Like, I actually think I couldn't live without it. I'm that serious about it. I love the fact that you can jump on and do a workout in your home. I don't really want to look at myself when I'm working out. So I don't know about you guys. I'd be curious if you think the Mirror is the way to go. You could do yoga classes, bar classes, boot camp classes, and it doesn't take up any space. And it looks like a mirror when it's off. So, self-love, narcissism? I don't know. You decide. And then finally, we did a little bit of a data dive on love in America. Because I think we talk a lot about marriage and divorce, but do we really know what's happening? Like, really? Big takeaway is this. Marriage rates are down in America, historically. If you look over the last 100 years, even if you look over the last 20 years or so. But you should also know that divorce rates are down. So marriage rates are down, but divorce rates are down. So kind of interesting to look at that picture. People are getting married older. They're also living together more often. And check out this fact. In like the 1950s, the percentage of Americans that lived together, cohabitated if you'd like, was like 0.1%. It's like, think about how much things have changed really in the last 70 years. And I'd be really curious, there's new data now that is, and we would love to take a look at this. We didn't take a look at it today. There are those that say the reason why marriages are lasting longer is because we're getting married older, and some of us are living together before we get married, and that's helpful for successful marriages. But there are plenty of people that say that's not helpful for successful marriages, and it's not helpful specifically for women. And I'd like to take a look at that as well. The two schools of thought. I'd be curious what you guys think. I didn't live with my husband before I married him, but he was also in the military. So we actually lived about 3,000 miles from each other, sometimes longer before we got married, which is a very good editing process. I don't know if I'd recommend it for everybody, but that was the path that we took. Everyone takes a different path. So anyways, guys, have a great, happy Valentine's Day. Do something fun, eat a little chocolate, indulge, look at yourself in the mirror, I don't know. Whatever you feel like. I'm going to get going for the day. We have a lot of other exciting stories coming at smarternews.com. And thanks for all the love, because I feel it and I really appreciate it. Have a great day, guys.